In the last stream, we set up this very large Draconic Evolution energy ball capable of storing up to 2.14 trillion redstone flux, currently sitting at about 7 billion in storage, so nowhere near the maximum capacity, but we now do have a ton of energy capacity and we are now actually storing all of the power being generated by our rainbow furnace. We also did a fair bit of chicken breeding to where we now have our nether star chicken, which in the short time that it has been running has already produced 2,000 nether stars and fully backed up that storage drawer. We also got a few more diamonds, glass, gold, and then over here, even netherite. The reason we have less netherite here is that I forgot to set this to auto output, and so this has only been running for like 20 minutes here, but as you can see, this is already well on its way to filling up, and so we really shouldn't have to worry about any of these resources, at least not in the near future. And then we also spent quite a large amount of time last episode fighting boss after boss after boss. We did every single one of the Twilight Forest bosses on the right-hand side. We also went through to the ancient city, we fought Maledictus, and we got ourselves some Cursium, and then of course we also did fight the Leviathan to get the Abyssal Egg, and so now we're actually in a very good position to complete Tier 4, I think fairly easily, by crafting up 16 Euphonium, which I will go ahead and bookmark, and then also crafting 2 of these Resonant Voids. With both of those, we will have fully completed Tier 4, and we will move on to the Tier 5 chapter of the quest book. So to make both of these, there are a few things we're going to need to do. The Euphonium, I think, is the easier of the two. For this, we need the Cursium, which we already have, the Enderium, which we also already have. We do need Vibrant Alloy Ingots, which, as I mentioned at the end of the last episode, are actually very easy to make with the Alloy Smelter. We just need to encode the recipe that combines Glowstone, Ender Pearls, and Energetic Alloy. Energetic Alloy, also very straightforward, Redstone, Gold, and Conductive Alloy. And the Conductive Alloy, again, you guessed it, in the Alloy Smelter, just copper and iron. And so if we throw all 3 of these over into there, I think we should just be able to request the 16 Vibrant Alloy Ingots, and that should be that part of the equation taken care of. And with the Octadic Capacitor, that shouldn't take too long at all. On top of that, we also need Skulk, 32 of it. We might have that already in the system. We totally do. If we didn't, we could go back down to the ancient city and get some of that. It wouldn't be too difficult. So now really the only thing that we don't have is this 10,000 millibuckets of liquid darkness. I'll bookmark that as well. To make this, we have to go through 2 vats from Ender.io. The first vat is going to make liquid sunshine from water. And to do that, we need to put in, by the looks of it, glowstone. There are a few other resources you can use here, but we have a ton of glowstone. And then we need either a sunflower or a torch flower. And I actually don't know if we have either of those. We do have some torch berries from the Twilight Forest. How do we go about getting a torch flower? We can do that with torch flower seeds, and torch flower seeds, as it turns out, can just be purchased from the Quartermaster. And so you know what, real quick, let's head through to spawn. Let's go say hello to the Quartermaster once again. Let's buy some of those berries and get those into one of our garden cloches just to make our lives that little bit easier. And then from there, it's just a case of making the 2 vats. I do think that we're going to want to encode a few more recipes here. The vat itself doesn't seem too difficult. I will encode the vat just so we can request it. We also need to get dark steel, another alloy smelting recipe, this time with iron, coal, and obsidian. We'll encode that. And then what else are we missing? Redstone alloy and iron gear with a void chassis. The void chassis doesn't seem too bad. We should, I think, already have some grains of infinity lying around from the last time we worked with Ender.io. We totally do. We've got 20 of those ready to go. It looks like we have had yet another loot bee, maybe a few loot bees bumbling around the place because we have yet more junk on the floor. Let's throw you in there, and then let's go ahead and see if we can't request this. I think we definitely can. We don't necessarily need to encode all of these patterns, but we are going to need a void chassis for any Ender.io machine we make in the future, and I do think it's quite likely that we might need iron gears in the future as well, and so I feel like we might as well just go ahead and encode that so that going forward we don't have to do it again. So can I get 2 vats? I almost can. Our system does not know how to make barrels, which is completely understandable. That is not something I've taught it. Again, might as well just go ahead and do one of those. That's going to get us everything we need for 2 vats, and I'm thinking of putting those 2 vats down potentially right here, because one thing we're also going to have to do today, if we want to get the resonant void, is we're going to have to make Prometheium, and that's going to require an atomic forge, and the atomic forge is fairly big. It's 3x3, and it's not really going to fit in with our current Orotech machines. I also don't really love the way these look kind of nestled in the wall here, so what I'm thinking we might do today is move the centrifuge, the assembler, and potentially the assembler round into this room and kind of have them down either along here or along here with some crafters placed up against them, so we can look to automate some of these Orotech machines to make it a whole heck of a lot easier for us to make things like Prometheium, because this is a fairly crafting intensive recipe. It needs overcharged crystals and a Heisenberg compensator. This requires adamant and unholy intelligence, which is made from a dubious container and some strange matter. The overcharged crystals require advanced batteries and superconductors, and so as you can see, it's quite the nested craft that's going to require a lot of auto crafting if we want to be able to do it quickly and efficiently, and so I do think that's going to be the best option for us. So let's go ahead and get rid of the Orotech machines that we currently have down here. I was going to ultimine there, but that looks like it was going to get rid of the assembler as well, which is currently working on getting us even more fluxite. Not that we necessarily need more fluxite just yet, but instead, let's go ahead and throw down our 2 vats, let's say here and here, leaving enough space in between to maybe put down a fluid pipe. We do have a few options when it comes to fluid pipes. We of course have the mechanical pipes from Mekanism. We have the fluid pipes from Orotech that we used earlier in the playthrough, but I do think that the fluid pipe from Pipes is potentially our best option, and it's also really not too difficult. It is a world engine recipe, but thankfully we do have an autocrafter already on our world engine, and so if we just go ahead and throw that in like so, we are going to have to upgrade the autocrafter on the world engine by the looks of it. Speaking of which, give me a couple more autocrafters. Let's request maybe like 4 more diamond autocrafters. We can get those working in the background, and we're going to use those today on quite a few machines. I don't really think we're going to have to auto-craft the liquid darkness, because again, I don't really think we're going to need that much of it. But of course, what we are going to need is we're going to need to go ahead and throw the torch flower seeds here into a garden cloche. For now, we'll go ahead and kind of hijack this one. Again, I don't really think we're going to need that many of them, and so what I will do is temporal pouch that, grab a decent number of torch flowers, and then we can just throw that into here with the glowstone, and at that point we just need some water, which we should be able to get fairly easily. If we go ahead and get a Mekanism tank, we should be able to shift scroll to change that to bucket mode enabled, and then from there we could look at grabbing some water out of our pitcher plant here. What I might do as well, just to make our lives a little bit easier in the future, is I might see if we can place an external storage directly onto the pitcher plant, giving our refined storage system access to the limitless amount of water that we already have in there. And at this point, we now just need to run cable over to that. And of course, that is going to be easiest for us to do if we get some more cable, and of course, if we grab our pipe connector. So if we grab that, we can shift right click on the bottom of that here with a valid pipe in our offhand, like that. And then if we go all the way back over to here, we should be able to connect that to one of our pre-existing cables. And in fact, it looks like we already have some cable running kind of around to here. And so if we go ahead and shift right click there, that should be perfect. Shift right click in the air, place pipes. Fantastic. And so now we have access to unlimited water inside of our refined storage system. And if I'm not mistaken, we could of course just throw down an exporter onto here to export that water permanently, but I'm hoping I can do something like this. And if we just left click 32 times, we should fill that up completely with water, at which point we can then go ahead and use this in bucket mode to go ahead and place all of that water into the vat, and that is going to start slowly but surely turning that water into liquid sunshine. We then need to pipe that liquid sunshine into another vat and combine it with amethyst shards and obsidian dust to make liquid darkness. So how many amethyst shards do we have? We have got 9 amethyst shards, but we do have many blocks of amethyst in the system. And then in terms of obsidian dust, we actually don't have that much, but all we have to do is run obsidian through our crushing factory over here. So back over here, let's do this, and let's also go ahead and actually request at least one fluid pipe. For that, we are going to have to teach our system how to make regular iron buckets, probably a useful recipe for us to have in the tank for the future as well. And for now, we'll just make one because that's going to make a full batch of 16, at which point we are probably also going to want to get the wrench from pipes. Again, very easy here, 2 sticks and 2 flint, super straightforward. And once those pipes are done, we can do this. We can shift right click with the wrench on this side to set that side to extract. That's going to move the liquid sunshine over, and that's going to start making the liquid darkness. And of course, if we wanted to at that point, we could also do something like that to accelerate the rate at which that liquid darkness is made. We need 10 buckets worth of that in total. And what I think we're going to do here, just to make life a little easier again, is potentially get another external storage and throw down a tank for that liquid darkness. That way we can just go ahead and teach our system how to make the euphonium like this, because of course we have the Fortron already, and it would be ideal if we could have our system put exactly the right amounts of Fortron and liquid darkness into the world engine for us, instead of us having to do all of that manually. Now, of course, in order to do that, we are going to have to get one of those diamond autocrafters that we just made and head on through to the world engine, because we have already entirely filled this basic autocrafter that we have down currently. So let's take all of these out. Let's quickly break this. Let's place down the new diamond autocrafter that's going to have a ton more slots, hopefully enough for us to get through to the end of the pack. And let's also go ahead and make sure we rotate that to face into the world engine. We'll then place all of these back into here, including the recipe for the euphonium. And that should be pretty much everything we need to make that euphonium happen. All we need to do is get this liquid darkness into a tank. And so what I am thinking here actually is, if I do this inside of the Ender IO machines, if we go to IO configuration, we can set the top here by right clicking to either push, pull, push and pull, or disabled. We're going to set it to push. You can also left click here to move this around if you want to look at the other sides, but that's going to push the liquid darkness up into there. And then from there, we might even be able to just put the external storage down kind of like that. I was really hoping that would connect to there, but I'm fairly certain that's never been how that works. Thankfully, what we can do is something like this, and then grabbing the facades that we made in a previous episode, we can just cover all of those up, and now we have a tank that is available to the system. And if we type in darkness, we can see 4 buckets of liquid darkness are ready to go. And I guess we could also actually turn off bucket mode, place down the water tank, and then just set this to pull from the top. And that's going to continue to produce that liquid darkness until we have the 10 buckets that we need. So now that's taken care of, if we were to look at requesting the euphonium, it really should just be the liquid darkness we're missing. It is also missing enderium, but that's just because our enderium is in block form. If we just craft all those blocks down into ingots, we have more than enough ingots to make that happen. And now we can pivot our focus over to the resonant void. Again, we already have a few of these items like the enderium and the abyssal egg, but we do need to get 4 empowered void crystals, 4 resonance engineering blocks, 4 promethium, this is going to be the tricky one, and then 32 sky osmium ingots, as well as 4,000 void flame fuel. So my first question is, do we have any void crystals in the system? We do not. Void crystals are fairly easy to make. We can zap a block of coal to turn it into a void crystal block, and then just like we did in the last episode to make our empowered emeradic crystal block, to empower this guy, we just need flint, coal, black dye, and deep slate, all of which I think we might already have. We do. Flint, coal, black dye, and deep slate. Perfect. So that is the first part of the task done. The second one here, the resonance engineering block, is actually one we've made before. We might even have one in the system. We don't. We might have handed it in actually. But it's also not too difficult to make. In fact, really the only things we're missing are the advanced electronic components and the lead sheet metal. So lead sheet metal is going to be lead in plate form, which we're going to do with our engineer's hammer like this. We need to get maybe 8 of these. That should make us, I think, 8 of the sheet metal, if I'm not mistaken. It totally does, which is more than we need. And then we need 4 advanced electronic components. Do not worry about the creepers in the background. Those are fake creepers. These can be made in the engineer's workbench with vacuum tubes, plastic, and aluminum wire. Although they can also be purchased fairly cheaply from the Echo of the Fabricator. And so just to make our lives a little bit easier, I think I am going to go straight back to the Echo of the Fabricator and just purchase 2 lots of these advanced electronic components. Also, real quick, I'm going to do /set home because our current home destination kind of puts us facing this way whenever we come in. Whereas now, I think, given that I've changed the home destination, when we come back through the portal, we're right here at the system and we're ready to go. I think that's just a small quality of life improvement that's going to help in the future. And now that we have the 4 advanced electronic components, we can make the 4 resonance engineering blocks, and that is another part of the equation done. The next easiest bit, I think, is going to be the sky osmium here. We make these in sets of 2, and it's made in a kind of similar way to the quartz-enriched iron. We drop skystone, osmium, and charged Certus quartz into lava, and that creates sky osmium. So we need 16 charged Certus quartz, 16 osmium ingots, and 16 skystone. Osmium, we have. I'll take 16 of those. Skystone, we also have, but only 1. I think there is more skystone hanging around by all of these portals. You'll see there's skystone all around here. And so if we quickly head for shapeless and do one of those, that's going to get us 0 skystone. Never mind, it has been sucked up by my pocket storage. We actually have 520 skystone hiding away in here, and so 16 is, of course, not going to be a problem for us at all. Now we just need to get 16 charged Certus quartz, and we do have 64 already in the system, and so really now all we need to do is throw down some lava, and if I'm not mistaken, we can use the lava egg here to directly place down a source block of lava by shift right clicking like so, and then if we do this, this, and this, hopefully, that makes us some sky osmium ingots. It does. Nice. And so now we are down to just the last 2 resources, those being the 4 buckets of void flame fuel and the Prometheium. So as I mentioned before, if we're going to get the Prometheium, we do need to get an atomic forge. The atomic forge isn't too difficult to make, actually. We are not missing too much. We're missing 1 more of these reinforced plating, and we're missing 1 duracium ingot. This is made in an alloy smelter. You can either use the Ender alloy smelter or you can use the foundry from Oratech, but it's made with platinum and netherite. So currently we don't have that much netherite, but we do have an unlimited amount of netherite scrap. And so again, I do think it's going to be worth quickly teaching our system how to make netherite using that netherite scrap. And then I also do think that it's going to be worth teaching our system how to make the duracium as well. And for that, we need platinum. And I'm pretty sure that's a resource that we have a little bit of, but not that much of. We got 858, which is more than enough for what we need today, but we might want to look at getting a platinum chicken at some point in the not so distant future, just to give us that unlimited supply of platinum. For now though, let me request just the 1 of those. Hopefully again, that's fairly quick inside of the alloy smelter. It is indeed. And boom, that gets us the atomic forge. So I'm going to place that down over in here somewhere. Let's say right about there. And just like all of the other machines from Oratech, it does require machine cores. I think this one requires 8 machine cores in total. And so let me see about getting a bunch of these. Again, for us right now, it really doesn't matter too much which tier of machine core we use. Like going for a higher tier of machine core isn't going to be helpful for us at this moment in time. So I will just quickly get 8 of those, right click all 8 of those onto the machine like that. And then if you right click it again after you've placed down all of those cores, it will form into the atomic forge. Cool. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to quickly move all of the machines that we had down here over into here, and I'm going to throw down a few more autocrafters onto all of these. I could be mistaken, but I think if you want this to work as effectively as possible, you usually want to put the autocrafter itself down on the actual block, that being the atomic forge in the middle. You'll see if I look at these blocks at the top there, it says primitive machine core. This might work. I've had some issues in the past where pointing it at this part of the machine kind of works and kind of doesn't. The same with power as well. And so what I'm going to do, I'm going to get some more importers and I'm going to place those down directly onto the primitive core. So we'll probably look at putting the importers on the top, and then we'll look at putting down all of the crafters on the bottom. It's a little bit awkward for this machine in particular because we also do need to get an importer as well to import the final product. And so what we're going to do is for all of these machines, we're going to go ahead and place down power on one side, and then we're going to have the crafter on a different side. The crafter in this case might go on the bottom. The Atomic Forge does work a little bit differently because the Atomic Forge has to be powered with the Enderic laser. So what we're going to need to do for this is get another one of these Enderic lasers here and give that power and then point it at the center of the Atomic Forge to give it power. But we'll do that in just a second. Real quick, I'm going to make another one of these lasers and I'm going to replace down our other Orotech machines over here so we can get all of those up and running. All right, so now we have these 3 machines down and we have our 3 auto crafters underneath. We also have our pipe connector ready to place down the refined storage cable between these 2 positions right here. I also did just craft a bunch of golden carrots, but then like a fool, I didn't put them in my backpack. I put them right back into the system. Let's put them in there to make sure we keep getting fed. I have just been made aware of a new feature called Pipe Vision here. If we turn that on, we can actually see kind of like all of the pipes that we already have lying around, making it way easier to find our pre-existing pipes to connect to, which is super useful. So now let's go back in here. Let's place those pipes down. That should bring all of these guys online. In fact, we could probably leave pipe vision on. That way, whenever we hold this, we have the vision of where those pipes are. And initially, I was thinking of putting importers onto all of these, like this and like this, but the Twitch chat has made a good point here that we can make this look a lot cleaner, especially with the Atomic Forge, because with the Atomic Forge, we'd have to have an importer on the top, and then we'd have to run cable kind of around one of the sides, which would work just fine, but would maybe look a little bit less than ideal. It wouldn't look as clean as I would like. And so what I'm thinking we can do instead is make use of the importers and exporters from the BBL routers mod. If we get a couple more of these, let's say 10, just so we have a few ready to go for the future, we could put these down really anywhere we like for symmetry. I'm going to put that one there. We'll put one here. And we'll put one there. And then if we take all 3 of those and link those to another inventory, we can then just import from that inventory and we're going to be good to go. I was thinking we could use ender chests here. The ender chests would also work, but we don't really need to use the ender chest because the routers can connect anywhere and up to any number of blocks. And so really all we need to do is get any kind of chest. We might as well use one of our very large sophisticated storage chests. And then if we just place that down somewhere near to our refined storage system, let's say we put it down kind of like right about here, like this. Again, it doesn't need to be underground, to be fair, but again, just to make it look that bit cleaner, we can then grab one of our importers, place the importer down directly onto here, and then going forward, all we need to do is, of course, place down an importer, like that, and then connect this importer to all of these exporters. And this is going to work for really any machine that we want going forward. It's going to allow us to move all of the items from any machine to that chest and then just import those directly into the system. It is probably going to be worth having a couple of speed upgrades and maybe even a stack upgrade as well, just to increase the speed at which we import from that chest. Right now, it's not really necessary because we're not going to be producing that much stuff, but going forward, as we add more and more devices to the network and as we have more and more things pumping into this oak chest, it would be nice to be able to import from that really as fast as possible. So let's also go ahead and request a stack upgrade. The stack upgrade does exactly what you would expect. Instead of moving one item at a time, it moves a stack of items at a time. And then the speed upgrades also, of course, do exactly as you would expect. They increase the speed of the importer. And so if we put in 1 stack and 3 speeds, we've now effectively made this importer really as fast as it can be. The final thing we need to do, of course, is over here. We do need to go back to the BBL routers mod, and we need to get ourselves some of the item upgrades to move these faster. We probably don't need these to be crazy fast. I don't really want to spend my Enderium or my Fortron just yet, so I am going to go with these tier 2 item upgrades. Again, we can always upgrade these in the future if we want to export faster from these machines. And while we're at it, let's also go ahead and get a couple of the speed upgrades as well, just to make these that little bit faster right out of the gate here. So boom, boom, and boom. Cool. So now all of those should be connected up and ready to go. They totally are. And so now we should, in theory, be able to start to automate, at least with these 2. As far as the Atomic Forge is concerned, as I mentioned a second ago, we are going to need another one of the Enderic lasers. I did quickly craft up some more motors and another Enderic lens here so we can get another one of these. And then we just have to have this down somewhere nearby, ready to point at the Atomic Forge. I think for symmetry's sake, I actually might put this kind of like on the roof like a crazy person. And with that, we can get ourselves another one of those machine cores and just have that pointing directly down into the Atomic Forge itself. I think that might look kind of cool. So if we do this and this, that's going to form. And then from there, we are going to have to grab our target designator. And just like we did before, this time we're going to shift right click on here and then shift right click on the base of the enderic laser. And so now if we give this guy power, which again we can do with another importer here, we should start to see power going from the enderic laser down into the atomic forge, ready to roll. Is that working as expected? That did break the exporter, which is kind of to be expected. I guess what I'm going to try, even though I'm not entirely certain if it's going to work, I'm going to put this here, and I'm going to hope that that's going to work to actually allow this to import. So real quick, let me go and make sure that's reconnected to our importer chest over here. And we'll give this a go and see if it does what we want it to do. So let's connect you there. Hopefully that will work. Let's also make sure we put our upgrades back in so that it actually can work. Fantastic. And this doesn't have any power just yet. I believe it only receives power once we actually start doing some crafting. Speaking of which, let's go start encoding some recipes to see if we can actually make some of these items. So the Prometheium, of course, needs to be encoded. That's going to go straight into the atomic forge. To make the Prometheium, we need both overcharged crystals and the Heisenberg compensator. This is also made in the atomic forge, so we'll encode that as well. The unholy intelligence is made in the centrifuge, but it's made in the centrifuge with strange matter and a dubious container. So I'm going to bookmark the centrifuge here because I think that what we need to do is we need to get a fluid add-on. And so what I'll probably do is make another centrifuge with the fluid add-on to do fluid-related recipes like this one that we have right here. We'll come back to encoding that. The overcharged crystal is just a generic crafting recipe. We can encode that. That requires an empowered Restonia crystal with superconductors. These are made in the assembler. We'll encode that. It also requires the advanced battery, which again, thankfully, is just another regular recipe. This requires steel and energite. Energite is going to be an alloying recipe that we can do either in the foundry or again in the alloy smelter. I think the alloy smelter is going to be way easier for us, so let's put you in there. And then before I get too confused by the number of recipes we have, let's put these where they need to go. So you and you are going in just there. You're going over in this guy. And again, we should probably do that through here. So we want the superconductor in the assembler, and then we want the Heisenberg compensator and the Prometheium inside the atomic forge. So real quick, I know we don't have all of the items to make it, but if I request the Prometheium, we can see what we're missing. So we are missing the unholy intelligence, the flux gate, and the dubious container. Let's encode all three of those if we can. We'll encode the recipe for the unholy intelligence. The dubious container is thankfully just a regular old crafting recipe. It does require enderic compound that we can make with ender dust in the centrifuge. The ender dust is going to require that we automate the crushing of ender pearls, which is probably also going to necessitate that we put an autocrafter on top of our crushing factory. That should not be a problem for us though. So let's put you into here so we can actually make that happen. And then at that point, I think we are just missing the flux gate, which is a processing unit with fluxite and platinum. We'll encode that. That, of course, requires the processing unit, which is again done in the assembler. We'll encode that. That does require carbon fiber strands, which is another recipe in the centrifuge, this time with coal dust. Again, another recipe that is going to necessitate the automation of the crushing factory. But all of that should be fine. So let's put you and you in there. Let's put you into the centrifuge like that. Let's grab another one of our autocrafters out of the system, and let's place that down over our crushing factory. Like so. Make sure, of course, that points down towards the crushing factory, like that. And then, of course, make sure we get an importer on the back of that guy as well. Once we have that down, I will do a quick check just to make sure that this is set to input from the top. It is. And then we want to set the back to output. And we don't really need auto eject on. As you can see, it's taking those out automatically. However, it would be very helpful, once again, to have at least a stack upgrade and then optionally a few speed upgrades as well, just to make sure we are importing from that crusher as fast as we possibly can. Boom, and boom, we should see that now pulling things much, much faster out of the crushing factory. And to test it, let's go back over here and let's teach our system how to make the coal dust from coal and how to make the ender dust, again, in the crusher. Encode. All right, we are getting somewhere, slowly but surely. Let me quickly throw you into there, and then let me quickly get another centrifuge down. Do we have what it takes to make another one of these? Almost. We should have everything to make more of those coils. I made a bunch of extra copper wire just in case we needed them. And then from there, that's another centrifuge. And then the fluid add-on, I also don't think is going to be too difficult. We need one fluid pipe, very straightforward, and then just some carbon fiber strands with electrum and silicon. Perfect. So I'll put this one down right about here, of course, necessitating another machine core. boom, and boom. And then this time around, we're going to put the fluid add-on down. Now, again, for the sake of symmetry, I might try and rotate that. If I put it down this way, because I kind of want to have the fluid add-on either on the front or on the back of the machine. So if we put that right about there, now we can assemble that. And now we'll see that this has a tank inside of it, whereas this one doesn't. So this is now capable of doing those fluid recipes. Real quick, let me get another autocrafter down onto this. Let me get another one of the exporters down onto this. And then we'll look at setting this up to autocraft the unholy intelligence. And not too long later, we now have a fully kitted out centrifuge. We can place the recipe for the unholy intelligence into here. And at this point, we are close, but you'll be unsurprised to find out that we are not yet at the end of this recipe chain. Because if we were to now try and request the Prometheium, we are missing the empowered Restonia crystal blocks. I'll probably just end up making those manually, but we're also missing a bucket of strange matter. And to make the strange matter is kind of another rabbit hole that we do have to go down. So strange matter here is made using a refinery from Oratech. Let me bookmark that. And in the refinery, we're going to place lava and enderic compound, and that's going to convert the lava into liquid sulfuric acid, shoalfire, and strange matter. So the question becomes, do we have what it takes to make a refinery? The answer is definitely not. We need a cauldron, very straightforward, as well as 3 of these refinery chamber modules. However, I'm fairly certain we're actually going to need potentially 5 or 6 of those chamber modules, because we have to put more of these modules on top of the refinery if we want to be able to get multiple outputs. And because the strange matter is the 3rd output, I think we might need 2 to 3 more tanks on top of the base refinery itself. So let's see if we can't get a bunch of these industrial support beams. Then let's see if we can't make a bunch of these portable tanks. That's going to require more fluid pipes, which again, thankfully, very easy for us to make. Let's get a ton of those, whack them in the system. And then can I make, let's say, 5 of these? I totally can. From there, we can go ahead and make our refinery, which we will go ahead and place down over in here. Let's say right about there. Although I think I might actually want that 1 block further forward to have it in line with the atomic forge. Again, we do need a bunch of primitive cores to actually assemble this. And once it's done, then what we're going to do is we're going to take the extra modules, because by default, you'll see that we only have access to the 1. We need these extra 2. And to get those, we take our extra refinery chamber modules and we shift click them onto here and onto here. And again, I think both of these require more primitive machine cores as well. They do. We are missing 2 more primitive machine cores, 1 and 2. Let's do 1, 2, and right click. And once we have all of those down, we now have a very large machine, but we have 3 tanks inside of here. And so now, if we, you guessed it, grab yet another autocrafter, this one is called World Engine. I tried to rename it earlier, but for whatever reason, if you rename it, I can press enter or I can escape. It doesn't change the name. One thing that has been suggested is that we might be able to change the name in an anvil. Let's try calling this Refinery. That totally does work. Fantastic. So if you're running into that bug, the anvil will work there. Again, let's throw you down right about here. Rotate that to face up. Fantastic. And make sure that that is connected to our pre-existing network, which is right about here. And this should be, hopefully, the final step of the process. Let me encode the recipe for the strange matter like that. And let's place that right into here like this. So now our system knows how to make the strange matter. We don't currently have access to lava, so we should potentially look at maybe throwing a tank down like we've done here, and I'm putting some lava into that so that it has access to it. Our system, of course, does already know how to make the enderic compound, and so that really shouldn't be a problem for us. We do have to provide this guy with power, and then there isn't actually a solid output that we're going to get from the refinery here. We're only going to get liquid outputs. So I think what we'll do is get ourselves some fluid drawers. These are storage drawers that, you guessed it, can hold fluids. And we can have each of these holding a different fluid, and then we can just connect those to our storage drawer controller over here, and that's going to give our system access to it by default. I would like these to look like the rest of our storage drawers, so let's get some more of the stone and the brick, do something like that. And then with 3 of these, what we should be able to do, I think, is just put like 1 of them down here, here, and here. And then I'm going to go ahead and get 3 puller upgrades so that we can pull automatically from the refinery into the drawer. So if we put this in and then we just go ahead and right click that until it is pointing south, which this one now is, that should pull any liquid out of this tank into this tank. And at that point, all we have to do is make sure that all 3 of these are locked and all 3 of these are linked, and our system should now have access to any fluid that is in any of these drawers. 2 more polar upgrades later, set both of those to south. Let's give this a go, shall we? Let's also facade up our floor so it doesn't look quite as crazy. Fantastic. Again, we are going to need lava here. Is there an easy way for us to convert our lava eggs into actual lava? There is. We could potentially use the item drain from create here. That's going to require a log of some persuasion and some copper, both of which very easy for us to get. We might have to strip the log, if I'm not mistaken. Yep, that's just right-clicking it with an all-in-one tool, and boom, we have ourselves some copper casing, maybe the first bit of create we've done so far. And with this, what we should be able to do is just export our lava eggs directly to the item drain, and that's going to turn them into lava. We can then take that lava and place it into, I guess, another fluid drawer is going to be sensible here, just so that we can then connect it to the system. And then if we have any lava going forward for any other recipes, we're going to have that available to us. I think I might put this maybe like right here, actually, like that. Again, if we lock and link that, like so, we can then potentially have this here, have our exporter on the back like that, and then from there we're going to put another puller upgrade into this drawer to allow it to pull the lava from behind this time, so that we can then have all of that lava go into that drawer. So if we do something like this, again, this time around, we want it going to the west, so we're going to right click until it says, I think back is what we want. Yes, that's correct. That's going to pull the lava in there. Just to show how this works, if we drop this on, that puts lava in, and then ideally, that lava is going to be pulled. Of course, that isn't pulling in just yet, but that is, of course, because the drawer is locked. If we unlock it, lava's going to go in, and we lock it, everything is fine. And a quick bit of cabling later, we can turn this on with lava eggs, and that's going to keep putting lava eggs onto the item drain, and that's going to fill up the fluid drawer with lava. And so with that, I think we might be pretty much good to go. If we now look at the Prometheium, the only thing we should be missing are the 2 empowered Restonia crystal blocks. Just like every other empowered block we've made, we're going to start by dropping 2 redstone blocks in front of our atomic reconstructor, and then from there we just need to place them onto our empowerer over here. This time around we're going to need 2 nether bricks, 2 red dye, 2 regular bricks, and 2 redstone. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Give that a quick tap to make it just a bit faster, and then repeat. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Perfect. So with both of those, we should finally now be at a point where we can actually request the Prometheium here. Let's click start, and let's see if any of this works in the way that we want it to work. We should see items being sent around all over the place. We are going to have to do some configuring, of course, over with these drawers to actually extract the liquids out of the refinery. That should not be a problem, though. This all looks like it's working pretty well. I'm hopeful the atomic forge is going to work as well. We should see that happening fairly soon here. We can, of course, speed some of these bits up by doing something like that to make it just a bit faster. Again, this also can be made just that little bit quicker as well. Over here, let's do the unlocking and relocking so that we can get all of the right fluids into the right drawers. Fantastic. We've already got the 800 millibuckets of strange matter there. Fantastic. And so now that should all start coming together. And once we have that, we are almost good to go. Now, we do need 4 Prometheium. And so we are actually going to have to get 3 more than what we already have. We've just requested 1. The only thing, again, getting in the way there might be the empowered Restonia crystal. It looks like we're also missing steel and adamant. Adamant should just be another alloy smelter recipe. Let's make sure that's encoded. Boom and boom. Steel is also another one that we can teach to the alloy smelter with coal dust and iron. I think we'll do that as well. We'll encode that, and we'll throw both of those in up here. I said we'll throw both of those in up there. We'll do that just as soon as we swap out the crafter, because we have managed to fully saturate this auto crafter very quickly in today's episode. There we go. That is now ready to roll on steel as well. And so now it's just the extra Restonia crystals that we're going to need if we want to get all of the Prometheium. And so real quick, while we wait for this first one to finish, I'm going to go ahead and get 6 more blocks of Restonia. Chat does make a good point that we should go ahead and throw some void upgrades into these fluid drawers right here, because otherwise what's going to happen, you'll see already we're producing way more of the sulfuric acid and the shoal fire than we are of the strange matter. If these drawers fill up and if these internal tanks fill up, the refinery will just stop producing anything, and that means we won't be able to get any strange matter going forward. So making sure that those are set to void any excess is going to be sensible for us. All right, so not too long later, I've got the extra empowered Restonia blocks here, and over here you can see that the atomic forge here is actually working. We're turning our unholy intelligence into the Heisenberg compensator, and then once that is done, it should turn it into the Prometheium for us if we have everything that we need, which I think we should. Again, accelerating that I actually don't think does anything. I think you have to accelerate the enderic laser if you want to make this faster, or potentially both if you want to make it really fast. But this should be working, and we should be about to complete the quest for the Prometheium. Look at that, it is done. And so if we grab that out of the system real quick, that is going to complete the quest for us. Fantastic. You'll love to see it. Again, we do need a few more of those. We did run into a slight problem. And that slight problem is that right now we have our refined storage system making the strange matter and putting it directly into this drawer. But the problem is that the system sees the strange matter, but because we're not importing it with refined storage, so because we don't have an importer that's pulling the liquid into the system, the refined storage system seems to not really know that that strange matter is needed for the Prometheium, and so the craft did get stuck. So what I might do real quick here is kind of request 3 more buckets of strange matter right away. That's going to kick this thing into gear instantly. And then once we have the strange matter, then we can maybe request the 3 extra Prometheium. It's a bit of an awkward extra step, and we could probably work around it by having importers pull from the refinery into the fluid drawers that are connected via like an external storage or something. But I think for now, if we do something like this to make this a fair bit faster, that's going to get us, hopefully, a few buckets of strange matter. And a few seconds later, once that is done, now we can go ahead and request the 3 extra Prometheium. Nice. While we wait for that Prometheium to come in, the final piece of this puzzle here for making the resonant void is the void flame fuel. This is made using the Shadow Pulse goo, which we do thankfully already have over here. Real quick before we do that, we have got more than 10,000 buckets of liquid darkness, so we should be able to get the euphonium that we need. We do need 16 euphonium, so we are actually not currently going to have enough because we need 20 buckets, right? It's 10 per crafting recipe. So real quick, let's take even more of these torch flowers out of here, throw those into there to get that cooking, and once we have the 20 buckets, then we can finish that up. Over here though, if we want to make the void flame fuel, we need to put down unrefined void flame fuel next to the goo. To get that, we have to drop void flame coal into blaze ember fuel. The void flame coal is made by breaking raw void flame coal, which is blaze ember blocks around the Shadow Pulse goo. This is made from blaze ember, which is made from raw blaze ember, which is primal coal blocks around the goo, which is made from primal coal, which is regular coal, I believe. It is. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to grab some blocks of coal, we're going to grab some ender pearls, we're going to right-click the ender pearl onto our Shadow Pulse goo to activate it, and then we're going to place these blocks of coal down around like this. And we can even do a little bit of pouching there to make that just a bit faster, and then we're going to harvest all of those, and we're going to repeat that a couple of times. I'm not entirely certain on the exact number that we're going to need, but we do have a fairly large amount of coal available to us. Some would say an unlimited amount of coal available to us, so it really should not matter too much if we waste a little bit of this here. And then we're going to start crafting that up and using that as a catalyst to convert some of the other liquids that we need to convert. So we'll start with the 64 we've got here. We're going to take all of that and we're going to craft that down into primal coal blocks, and then we're going to go ahead and do the same thing again here. We're going to put those primal coal blocks down around the Shadow Pulse goo, like so. Then we're going to break those to get the next tier here, which is the blaze ember. You do lose some every time, so even if we started with 7 blocks there, we don't quite have enough to get 7 blocks this time around. Unfortunately, I don't believe that looting or fortune affects this, by the way, so you do just kind of get what you get with this. If we put this down again, that's going to convert it into the final form here, which is the void flame coal, and that void flame coal is what we're after. So each one of these can do a bucket, so I think we only need 4 of these actually. So we should be good to go. Now on the fluid side, we need to get the unrefined void flame fuel, which we get from blaze ember fuel, which we get from unrefined blaze ember fuel, which we get from polymorphic fluid with blaze ember. So thankfully we still got some blaze ember left. Polymorphic fluid is acquired by dropping polymorphic catalyst into water. This should be fine, and 4 is perfect because we only need 4 buckets of this total. So what we're going to do essentially is we're going to put down the water, we're going to drop the polymorphic catalyst into it, that's going to turn it into this polymorphic fluid, then we're going to put the polymorphic fluid down next to the Shadow Pulse goo just to make our lives a bit easier. What I might do here is maybe get like some iron bars or something and do one of those. That's going to stop the fluid from leaking all over the place. This, if we activate it with an ender pearl, should convert the polymorphic fluid just as soon as we drop in the blaze ember. And then once that's converted, we're going to do the same thing again with the void flame coal, convert it again, and there is our first bucket of void flame fuel. So we essentially just need to do that 3 more times. That's 3 more buckets of water, all placed down on the ground. We're going to drop the polymorphic catalyst into each of those. 1, 2, 3. We're going to pick all 3 of those up. 1, 2, 3. And then one by one, we're going to drop those down. We're going to drop in the blaze ember, followed by the void flame coal, and it's done. And there we go. Not too long later, we have our 4 buckets of void flame fuel. That really wasn't too bad. We're very close. Not quite there yet, but very close on the liquid darkness here. We do just need a little bit more water to get this over the finish line. So let me just refill this tank real quick and place that back down right about here. That should get us there momentarily. We can, of course, go ahead and request the first batch of euphonium because we have everything required to do that. And in the time it took to make that first batch of euphonium, we do have another 10,000 millibuckets of dark matter. So let's go ahead and shift left click and request another one of these. Oh, we are missing a little bit of skulk. All right, we need to head back real quick to get some more of that, but then we should be good to complete both of these quests. Once again, back down here, let's grab our Silk Touch pick, and let's just do a quick one of those to get a ton of skulk. That should be more than enough. Just to save us time in the future, I am going to go ahead and add a new location here. We'll call this Ancient City, because right now I'm teleporting towards the Nether Ring, which is kind of just a bit of a waste of time. Let's head back home, and in the time it took us to do all that, I do believe that we are pretty much good to go on all fronts now. So let's request another batch of the euphonium, and we already have the Prometheium as well. So now we should be able to go ahead and get the resonant void. I don't think that we encoded that earlier, so let's just go ahead and quickly encode this, and then over inside of our AutoCrafter Manager, let's head back down to the World Engine, which I did not rename as World Engine, and so is not showing up in the list. It will be in the list, but just to make my life easier for the future, let's quickly rename this to World Engine. And while we're here, we'll throw in our processing pattern as well. I really thought that would work, but apparently it doesn't work for anything now. I can't just rename it at all, which is really unfortunate, so we're just going to have to know that it is some machine block. The good news, though, is that we can now go ahead and request the 2 resonant voids that we need. We do need the void flame fuel to be accessible to the system if we want this to work. So real quick, let's get one more fluid draw, configure that to look how we want, and we'll drop the void flame fuel into that so that we can request the craft. These don't all need to go over here, of course, but just for consistency, I'm going to put that down right about there, drop all 4 of those in, make sure, of course, that we link that with our linking tool and lock that with our configuration tool. And finally, let's see if we can't get the 2 resonant voids. We don't need to request 2 because it makes 2 by default. And so start, that should not take too long whatsoever. Our euphonium is done. We can go ahead and complete that quest and get our reward for that, including a portal gun. This is pretty nifty. You can put down portals by left-clicking and right-clicking, and that creates a little passageway that you can really put anywhere that you like. It could be useful, although we do already have the temp pad if we want to be able to get around extra quickly. Okay, so there has been a slight mistake here, and that slight mistake, if we look in here, this is not actually completing the recipe. The reason for that is that we need the crystal matrix block, the energy core stabilizer, and the energy core upgrade. That was this quest right here. We used these to make our draconic energy ball, but there is actually an option here to use that to make a world engine upgrade. And so what we need to do real quick, if we're going to complete this craft, is we need to get 4 more of those energy core stabilizers, along with another energy core. Again, should be pretty straightforward. Let me get a bunch of those because we're going to need them later on. We'll take 2 more of you, 1 and 2, another 1 of you, boom and boom. We'll get the energy core, and then we do need to get another 4 crystal matrix blocks, which is going to require a ton of these, which is going to require loads of diamond lattices. I'm going to make a ton of those again. We have unlimited diamonds, so it's not really too much of a problem. We also have unlimited nether stars at this point as well. Let's take all of those, and then let's quickly go ahead and hand in this, and this. And of course, we actually do need to have those energy core stabilizers in our inventory if we're going to hand that in. Boom, and boom. We'll assemble that. That should show us the world engine upgrade, and as soon as the world engine is upgraded, we should hopefully see the recipe that we have inside of it complete almost instantaneously, and then from there, we can complete the quest and go talk to the echoes. I can hear it working. You'll love to see it. Let's do one of these just to make it a bit faster. And now back at home, we have the resonant voids ready to go. Let's head on back to spawn and let's go talk to some of these echoes to complete some quests. So we need to claim our netherite basalt generator. That's going to be very good at generating basalt. Not that we necessarily need that. The Echo of the Ancient and the Echo of the Wormrite. We'll start with the Echo of the Ancient. Hello, my friend. Stage complete. That's all I have to offer you for now. Speak to the other echoes. And then the Echo of the Wormrite. Hello, my friend. Complete stage. Complete other echoes task to unlock more knowledge. That is done. We'll claim our rewards here as well. Boom. And boom. We will also do the world engine upgrades before I forget. Let me hand in that one and assemble. Again, sometimes for whatever reason, it doesn't actually show you the animation when you do that. That's fine. Let's also do this, submit, and assemble. Again, didn't show us the upgrade. That is fine. And now, I believe we just need to go back to talk to the Echo of Guidance at spawn.
Searching databank for last known location of Ascended Echo archives. Archives could not be located. System analysis complete. The WERK has encountered an unexpected error. The final echoes remain unreachable to the system. Consult the Echo of the Wormrite, who may have some methods of uncovering traces of the Ascended Echo archives.
So our task now is to ask the Wormrite about the Ascended Echo's location. All right, so we'll go right back to the Echo of the Wormrite. Hello, my friend. Complete stage.
One thing about dragons is that we can sense our kin across time and space. Wherever my brother is, I know he'll hear me. He always does. He's a chaotic little wormling, though, so don't expect him to be somewhere easy to get to. Normally, I'll take you there myself, but as you already know, I'm just a binary recollection of my memories. Still, there's always hope. To get there, you'll need to fuse an advanced Draconic course with Fortron, Ronan, and Swords, then temper it into a shield fire. With luck, the process will carry my Draconic will into a component strong enough to open a path to him.
Alright, so our task now is to craft a Chronon Resonator. We do get more money for that, you'll have to see it, and we have unlocked Tier 5 Hyperion, even more money available. We need to craft a Chronon Resonator, which requires 16 teleportation cores, 1 Chronon battery, 32 Chronoton glass, 16 Wyvern cores, and 8 time crystals. We do already have some Surefire in the system, thankfully, as a byproduct of making the strange matter. I don't think we're going to have 10 buckets of it. Never mind, we got 12.5 buckets of it. So this also shouldn't be too difficult. I think most of this stuff we already have. The only slightly difficult thing might be the time crystals. That's going to require more void flame fuel, but actually this isn't too bad. We need some entro crystals, which we can get into with some advanced AE. That also should not be too difficult, but that is all going to have to be a problem for future Isaac. Next time, we'll come back and we'll look at getting started with Tier 5 Hyperion. We'll unlock ourselves a new Echo, I believe, and then we'll progress on with the quests further in this section of the quest book. But again, that is of course a problem for future Isaac. For now, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this episode of StoneBlock 4 there.